here's the star of our show and your host, Jim Lang.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, and good evening. You know, we're all as excited as we are delighted to be doing our first nighttime show here from Hollywood, which we have affectionately designated as the dating capital of the world. This is the program which brings together 3 eligible bachelors, 1 pretty girl, gives her a chance to question the gentleman and then choose her escort.
Then I couldn't figure out where the feet should be. Then I couldn't figure out where the arm might be coming out of the body. And finally I decided to stop worrying about it. All I wanted was that dog held there.
There was a lot of aggression in me that was starting to come out. I started putting my violence into my work. I made reliefs of death and desolation.
Creating beauty is creating something. It's creating something which has to do with you, which has to do with now, which has to do with bombs and everything exploding at the end of the world.
The second half of the 20th century saw a real blossoming of women's art. It was around the time of pop art, op art, minimal art, that things really began to happen. Then in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, women's art exploded. Women like Marisol, Elizabeth Murray, Nikki de St. Phal, Lee Bonnecue, and Nancy Sparrow began to change the face of women's art. Women had come into their own and were on an equal footing with men artists. Marisol Escobar, generally referred to as Marisol in the art world, was one of the premier artists of the 20th century. She came to the fore in the 60s during the pop art era. Marisol decided that the emotional heaviness of the abstract expressionists was not her cup of tea. She turned to humor as a main crux in her work, developing a vernacular comprised of mixed media, carving, nailing, gluing, painting, drawing, and plastering. She also included found objects and occasionally television media. Nothing was off limits. Elizabeth Murray is an important artist who came to the fore in the 1970s in New York. Murray's paintings were part expressionism, part abstraction, and part pop art. She was one of the first artists to start working with shaped canvases. Bridget Riley came to the fore as an artist in the 1960s. She was one of the foremost proponents of op art. Riley's art dazzled the eye. Her paintings were abstract. They made use of various phenomena: after image, color interference, reversible perspective, and figure ground ambiguity. In her later career, she began to use color with a bit less optical effect. Nikki de St. Phal began her career with a bang.
I told Tingley about my vision to make a painting bleed by shooting at it. Real bullets would pierce the plaster reliefs and hit the cans and bags of paint embedded inside the relief, causing the paint to explode.
Lee Bonnecue was a highly skilled artist who made sculpturesque paintings. They were reliefs and carried on the tradition of Rauschenberg and Johns, blurring the distinction between sculpture and painting. Hess did most of her abstract sculptures with plastic resin and fiberglass. The use of light had a strong presence in her work. Alice Aycock was an important pioneering woman artist of the 20th century. She was one of the first women to do site-specific, conceptual, and minimal work. In 1977, Aycock did one of her most iconic works. It was called Studies for a Town. Her site-specific, unorthodox sculptures put her on the map in the art world. They were very worldly, at the same time that they were otherworldly.